Hello, friends. Welcome to Chickenlandia and welcome to Bawk Talk, your 100% friendly backyard chickens show. I'm your host, Dahlia, also known as the president of Chickenlandia. I'm a backyard chicken educator that has found peace and joy in the chicken yard, and I want to help you find that too. So, oh gosh, thank you so much for being here with me today. Today is going to be casual, okay? It's going to be very casual because I have been, as you can imagine, very busy. And, I have all this stuff going on with getting my new book out, because I do have a new book out, which I'm about to talk about here in a second. But aside from that, I've taken on another project that I can't talk about yet. And so because I just don't have any sense. I just have no sense. That is the reason. Okay. But anyway, it's of course exciting and everything, but I on top of everything that I do, I have a family and I've got kids and I've got dogs and my chickens that I have to take care of. So yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot right now. And I'm just gearing up for tomorrow, which we're going to talk about. So, before we go on, I want to say hello to everyone in the chat. Oh, there's a lot of people here. Let's see. Tom Travis is here. Elizabeth Cherney, Brenda Moore. Thank you guys for being here. Michelle Root. Oh, the Chickenlandia Presidential Advisor is here. Ford Twin Ranch. Tammy Wilshire. Howard Homestead, Diane, I can't say your last name, I'm so sorry. Another Diane, and Val de Coupe de Chickenville is here. KG's here. Oregon Uplands. Oh, thank you guys so much for being here. Sorry, I'm not shouting everybody out because there's actually a lot of people here today. Yay! All right, well, welcome back, everybody. Today is episode 11 of season 4. And if you're wondering, if you've been keeping up with things and you're like, wait a minute, where is episode 10? Actually, I did an interview. I'm starting to do like interviews with people and they're not live. So I did an interview with someone from My Pet Chicken, and we talked about ordering chicks online and the special things that you can do to make sure that goes smoothly. And that was a really good interview. It is on all the major podcast apps. It only came out in podcast form. So if you're looking for episode 10, that's where you will find it. And it's just not uploaded on YouTube. Hold on. Itchy nose. I want to talk about something very special today. Today I'm just going to chat. I'm just going to chat about my book that's coming out. It's called Let's All Keep Chickens. And I'm going to read you the full title. Let's All Keep Chickens, the down-to-earth guide to natural practices for healthier birds and a happier world. I love that title. And I have to give some of the credit to the publishers for that title. So I'm going to be chatting about that. That's not going to take very long. And then we're just going to do like a Q&A and ask me anything. You can ask me questions about the book. You can ask me questions about chickens. You can ask me questions about my life, as long as they're not too personal. And hopefully we can just spend some time just chilling out before tomorrow when I'll be losing my mind because the book's coming out tomorrow. So anyway, I do want to talk about how, this I believe would be, no matter where you are in your chicken journey, I really feel like this would be a good book for you to have in your library. And that's what I want to talk to you about today. Hold on. I totally don't have, I usually script just like everything. So even if I go off the script, I've got the bones of everything that I'm going to say. And today's just been so crazy that I have I have chicken scratch. I'm looking at chicken scratch right now. This is what I'm supposed to go off of today. Anyway, so, okay. The first thing I want to talk about regarding this book is the cover, because that so far has been what has created the most buzz. And if you are listening in podcast form, I'll tell you the cover is It's a portrait that was taken by a gentleman by the name of Rick Doms. He's this amazing photographer. He's up here in the islands in Washington State. I can't remember what island he's on. And he's amazing. And I hired him, like, I don't know, it was like 4 or 5 years ago to do this portrait of me. And it was just like a publicity portrait at the time. And I'm sitting in my old coop. I used to have a coop that had all these windows. It was a small kind of garden coop. And I'm sitting in it and I'm like surrounded by all these chickens and I'm holding a chicken. And the cover is just, it's very striking. And that's what I've gotten the most comments on. So if you haven't seen it yet, here it is. I'm going to show you guys on YouTube. There it is. And there's like all these chickens around me. So it's so funny that, I mean, I'm so glad that this photo was chosen as the cover, but I had an interview with Mother Earth News a couple weeks ago, and I was telling them about how this cover almost did not happen. It was going to be something completely different. I had like this idea in my mind about what I wanted it to be, and it was not this photo. And, you know, when you work with a publisher, they will tell you, okay, this is what it's like, honestly, like they have the final say with things like the cover. And, you know, with the stuff that you write in the book, it's kind of this back and forth. But with the cover, really the designers will say, like, they will very strongly suggest what they think that the cover should be. And I was just like, no, I do not want this to be the cover. Like, this photo was taken 5 years ago. I don't look like that anymore. Or like I felt like I was like, I feel like I don't look like that anymore. You know, I want something different. I had like this different idea in my mind. And the designer at Story Publishing, which is who I published this book through, was so sweet. And she was like, okay, but like, this is a really good photo and we really feel like this is what we should go with. And I could just tell, like, she was like handling me because I was just like, oh my gosh, I don't want this to be the cover. And so I like really fought them on it. I mean, I try to always be nice and everything. I wasn't like being rude or anything, but I was really passionate about it. And she was like, okay, let me just send you the cover with the title on it. And then tell me what you think. It'll have like the design elements on it, because at the time it was just the photo. So I was like, okay, you know, and I, you know, in my head, I'm like, it's not going to change my mind, but whatever, just send it to me. So she sends it. She sends it. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like, that's it. Like, that looks really good. And I was so embarrassed. I was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe that I like was campaigning so hard against this photo when it's obviously like the perfect photo for this book. And I'm so proud of it. And they were 100% right. And let me tell you, like, working with Story Publishing, if you don't know who they are, they've published Gail Damero's books, which are like the chicken Bibles. You know, like she wrote Story's Guide to Keeping Chickens or something. And that's like the very first chicken book that I ever got. And also the Chicken Health Handbook. And those are both really, really good books. They also have one by, I apologize, I can't remember the author's name, but it's like How to Speak Chicken. It's a super cute book with a really nice cover on it. Lots of good information in it. So I had always wanted to go with Story Publishing from the time that I first started teaching about chickens. I was like, you know, someday, I remember picking up the Story's Guide to Keeping Chickens, and I picked it up. I was at a library, and I was like, someday they're going to publish my book. And they did. And I only sent it to one publishing company. I didn't shop it around at all, which is totally what you're supposed to do. I didn't have an agent, none of that. I just sent it to one publishing company, the one that I wanted, and they did it. So I'm super grateful to them. Val, thank you so much for the super sticker. Thank you. I don't see if anyone else sent a super sticker, I don't see them very well when I'm on, because I'm on a different I'm using like an app to do this live. So if I don't see it, I'm sorry, but thank you so much, Val. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. So anyway, I'm super grateful to Story Publishing. Like they really believed in me, and they didn't change. Like, when you write a book through a publishing company, you have to go through an editorial process. And sometimes that can be really tough because they might be like, you know what, this really isn't communicating and you need to redo this, or let's say this a different way. And for writers, that kind of thing can get tough, but they really let me be myself and write from my heart. And they really believed in that, and they believed that it would work. And so I'm really appreciative about that. And I will say this isn't like, I really didn't want to make it like this dry chicken book, and there's certainly places for that. Like I didn't want it to be like just purely reference. Even though I have books like that, where I go, the Chicken Health Handbook, like I reference that all the time. And so I think that's very important. But I really wanted to inspire people with this writing. And I really wanted to work on, getting people to start to listen to their own intuition and start to think about how taking care of chickens today in today's world, it kind of connects them with their ancestry and also to everyone else's ancestry, because so many cultures in the world have had chickens as part of their lives. And so in order to do that, I did put some story in my book. So there's a lot of like my story in it. It's not too much. It's not just like, here's the story of my life. Oh, and I have chickens. It is a book with a lot of information in it. But I also wanted to really connect with the reader and kind of, inspire them through my own story and get them to start thinking about their story and how that relates to them, kind of getting back to nature through this tradition of chicken keeping. So there are some story breaks in the book. It starts out, in Guatemala, and I'm talking about my great grandmother. And then I kind of go into just the story of chickens and especially chickens in the United States and how we kind of became separated from them and from that tradition. So, but there's also like, if you are a beginner, or if you're intermediate, there is a lot of information in this book for you. So I'm going to just tell you really quick the table of contents. Oh, and look, the Chickenlandia, for those of you on YouTube, the Chickenlandia presidential advisor is here and right inside the book. There she is. There she is. That's her. And that's he came to be in the photos in our book. He was this awesome guy that came and held some of the chickens so we could take photos and stuff. And also Rick Dom did the photography of the book. So that was awesome. Okay. Oh, I'm going to tell you the table of contents. So the chapter 1 is the chicken and human reunion. And that's where I talk about like how we can like come back to this tradition that once was a part of our lives and was a part of almost everybody's lives on the planet, and how we can kind of make that reunion happen. And then I talk about planning your flock. And I kind of bring it back to how we can plan for our flock with also taking into consideration our local environment and our communities. I talk about coops. I talk about living in harmony with predators and predator proofing. I talk about taking care of baby chicks. That chapter is called The Joys of Chicken Motherhood. All the chapters have funny names. Then I talk about day-to-day care, day-to-day care for your adult chickens. Like once they come out of the brooder and go outside, I'm very thorough about like just every day what you can do to make your life easier, to make the whole experience of chicken keeping less stressful for you. I talk about nutrition. And I kind of, talk about how we've learned about chicken nutrition, specifically in the Western world, and how that's shaped by factory farms. So I talk about kind of unlearning some of that and getting back to the more traditional way of feeding chickens and making sure they get the right nutrition that they need. I talk about preventing disease naturally and taking care, supporting your chickens when they do get sick. I talk about growing your flock. I talk about the different seasons of life for your flock. So, of course, chicken care through fall, winter, spring, summer. And then also, the seasons of life that chickens have. There are baby chicks. Then there are these fantastic layers or pets or whatever you want, if they're little bantams that don't lay that much. And then also, what it's like when they start to get into old age. And then my final note, it says chickens can change the world. That's my final note. And at the very end, and a lot of people because it got sent out to some people so that they could read it and review it. And one thing that people really enjoyed about it is that there's recipes at the end of the book that came from my mom. So they're Guatemalan recipes, and she gave them. And of course they have they're egg recipes. And I'll show you for those of you that are watching. My mom isn't it? My mommy. There's my mom. That's her making homemade tortillas. So yeah, there's recipes at the end of the book, and it's got a good index in it. And I think it's really well designed. I was really delighted with the design of it. As I'm sure you all know, I did not design it. Someone else did. I just wrote it. Someone else designed it, and they did a really good job. The story design team did a really, really good job. So that's basically it in a nutshell. I will leave a link in the show notes and in the description if you would like to order the book. It officially comes out tomorrow. So tomorrow you should be able to actually go into a physical store and buy it, and hopefully it'll be at your local bookstore. If not, you can tell them, and hopefully they will be able to get it for you. But I'll also leave a link in the description if you want to order it online. And thank you so much to everybody who has ordered this book. It's actually selling really well. I was quite surprised by how well it sold. Even like the first week of pre-orders, it was at the top of the chart. So I was speechless about that. Quite delighted about that. So I appreciate it. Thank you guys very, very much. So we are going to move on and do an Ask Me Anything, and it's going to be a lot of fun. But before we do that, there is something. Oh, hold on. But before we move on, there's something I need to share with you, because even though I am a published author now, my chickens don't care. They do not care. I still have to buy them food. Okay, I got to pay those chicken bills. So as always, I want to let you know that this podcast was brought to you by the folks at My Favorite Chicken. My Favorite Chicken is my favorite online shop to get my feed. I get my non-GMO, organic, socially responsible scratch and peck feeds at My Favorite Chicken. I get my chicken supplies there, other fun chicken stuff, chicken treats. myfavoritechicken.com. I will leave that link for you in the show notes. This podcast was also brought to you by Small Pet Select. Small Pet Select is a small local company to me, but they have an online store that I know you guys are going to love. They have several products that I'm using right now. I just started using their pine pellets. They sent me a box of their pine pellets. So I started using those in the, because my yard actually got kind of more muddy this year than it did last year. I think because that one freeze that we had was just wild. So it's a little bit more muddy out there than I like. So I use some pine pellets out in the chicken yard to take care of that mud. So I love that. I love their pet greens, and also their organic pine shavings. So you should definitely go check them out. I will leave their link in the show notes, and there will be a coupon there for you. And they also have other stuff for like bunnies and hamsters and chinchillas and stuff like that if you have those little critters. Okay, I am going to open up the chat for an Ask Me Anything. You can ask me anything, okay? Probably you're going to want to ask me about chickens, but you can ask me anything. Please put your question in all caps so that I can see them, okay? All right. Celia Perry says, definitely getting my hands on this book. Thank you so much. And Tomasita Rod says, thank you for writing this book. Oh, thank you. Thank you. I couldn't have done it without you guys. Oh, great question. So Shauna asks, do you know what is the best treatment for scaly leg mites? So if you guys don't know what scaly leg mite is, it is the bane of my existence. That's what it is. Okay. It is because I've dealt with it a lot. So, what it is it's basically these mites that will get under the scales of your chickens on your chicken's legs and feet. Okay. That's where they live. And as they get under the scales, they can multiply so much that it will actually push the scales out. And if they're allowed to just fester and if there's a real bad infestation, it can really affect your chicken's health. Like their feet can get swollen. They can have trouble walking. They don't normally die from it unless it's like, it would have to be really bad, but that would be an awful way to die. So it's definitely something that you want to treat. It's very uncomfortable for them. But luckily it is easy to treat. So I have a few different ways that I like treating it. If it is at an advanced stage, it's really, the scales are really, really raised. There's some swelling going on. There may be some deformity in the feet. I would use A&D ointment. Okay. And this is just A&D ointment that you can get at your department, at your grocery store or at your pharmacy. And really just get it and slather it on their feet and their legs. So you want to get all the way up to where their feathers start and put it's going to be goopy, but put a good amount on their feet and legs. Make sure it's covering everything. If they got feathered feet, it's very messy, but it treats it so well. And that is really what I've seen kind of handle, because they can get like a secondary infection and it's so soothing to them. And it seems to help kind of bring that inflammation down. I would also put some arnica in their water, like the homeopathic arnica. Okay. Comes in it's from a company called Boiron. That's the most common homeopathics that you see. It's like a little blue vial, and you can get it at health food stores, at Whole Foods. And sometimes you can get them at like Walgreens, because more people are using homeopathics now. But it's one called Arnica, and you want to get it in a 30C potency. That's a relatively low potency for your chickens. And just take a couple of pellets, put it in their water while they're recovering. And when they're really, when you observe them getting better, you can stop putting it in their water. And you could just do that once a day. So that is what I would use. I had one chicken that got it pretty bad recently, and I used that, and it helped her so much. And that arnica will help to get that swelling and that pain under control. Okay. The thing about scaly leg mite is it's very contagious. So it's a really good idea if you have one chicken that has it to treat your whole flock, which is like tough because, I know some of you out there have a lot of chickens. I have over 30 chickens now. So it's no joke for me to have to treat my whole flock. The easiest way I have found to do that, or, if the cases are just not that serious, you get a bucket, like a small bucket fill it up, go to Costco or go to Sam's Club or wherever, get yourself a big bottle of vegetable oil. And it doesn't have to be organic or any of that. It's going to be like, the vegetable, just regular old vegetable oil. Put that in the bucket or like the big bowl or whatever you have, and get each chicken, dip their legs in the bucket, pull them out and let them go. And do that like maybe every 3 days for about 10 to 14 days. If you really want to be safe, I would go 14 days. And same with the A&D ointment. You're going to want to repeat that every few days for a 2-week period, because you want to catch up with the cycle of the mites. So you're going to suffocate the existing mites, and then when new mites hatch, you can get those right when they hatch so that they don't start having more babies and having their family stay on your chicken's legs. So to me, yeah, the vegetable oil thing is easy. I know a lot of people will say put gasoline on your chicken's legs, like dip their legs in Vaseline. I've even seen popular educators suggest that. I really don't suggest that. It's not good for your chickens, and it's not good for you. Okay. Yes, it does kill the scaly leg mites, and it will kill the eggs too. But if it's that intense, you don't want to be breathing that in, and you don't want your chickens to be breathing that all night. Like if you've ever accidentally sprayed gasoline on yourself, which I have one time at a gas station, I just got gasoline all over myself, and you will be miserable because it just stinks. It's awful. So you don't want that. It's not good for you. And the vegetable oil is just so much easier. So that was a very detailed answer I went into there. I hope that helps, Shauna. Missy asks, I know you normally do rescues, but have you ever tried hatching eggs? Any thoughts? I have had a broody chicken hatch out duck eggs. I don't do a lot of hatching. I don't do, I don't use an incubator. And the reason I don't is because I have to be really careful about roosters. Last year I had a happy accident where I ended up with 2 extra roosters, and that really caused a problem in my flock. And I'm the kind of person that it's really hard for me to give up birds. So, and I'm not the kind of person that would eat one of my roosters. No judgment, no hate about that. It's just, I know what I'm capable of, and I'm not capable of that. So I have to be responsible. When you hatch out eggs, whether it's under a broody hen or in an incubator, you're going to get roosters. And so what I just tell people is you need to have a plan before you go into that, and you need to know what your capabilities are, and have a plan in case you end up with lots of extra roosters, because it can become a problem even if you're allowed roosters where you are. If you end up with too many roosters per hens, then your flock can end up really stressed out. Okay. So I think it's great if you want to hatch eggs. I think that would be wonderful. There's a lot of good information online about it. It's there's many other chicken educators that have really detailed information about it. But it's just not something that I do very often. And so I don't talk about it very often. And I don't really talk about it that much. I think I talk about it a little bit in my book, but that's not where my expertise lies. And I have to leave room for rescue chickens too. Wanda says, I just pre-ordered your book. I'm so excited. Oh, thank you. Thank you. How do you deal with a dirty vent in a very fluffy chicken? Mine is an Orpington and otherwise seems fine. I want to do the right thing. So, you can give her a bath. You can bring her inside, and or if it's warm outside, you can do it outside. Give her a nice warm bath with some gentle soap. You can use like a Dr. Bronner's, or you can use like Dawn soap, and just gently work that material off of her. Sometimes a poopy butt like that can be a signal that there's something going on. This may be something that you're able to control. It might be something that is beyond your control, having to do with their health. I would just make sure that they're getting the right nutrition, that they're getting the right balance of nutrition. You could try fermenting their feed. That would put some good probiotics into their diet and might help to, if they have like an imbalance in their gut bacteria, it might help to correct some of that. But definitely you want to clean it up. I have one chicken that she's rumpless, and I will clean her up, and then like a week later, she's got a poopy butt again, and it's really hard for me to stay on top of it. Otherwise, besides that, she seems to be in generally good health. I don't think she's a super healthy chicken. She was a rescue. She's not like a really resilient chicken, although she's doing fine. But I can tell that, maybe she's not bred that great, and she just has this issue that I haven't been able to really find out what the problem is. But other than that, she's happy. And if you try everything and it's just not working, just work to keep her as clean as you can and keep an eye on it. Keep an eye for other issues. Okay? Hope that helps. Celia Perry asks, what? I don't know why this is so funny, but would you ever consider getting guineas? So she's asking me if I would ever get guinea fowl. And yes, I would consider it. But I also have to consider that I have neighbors, and I just don't know how they would deal with that. Like, guinea fowl are just so loud. They're like the clowns of the poultry world, They look like little clowns, and I love them. And I would love to have some guinea hens, like a couple of guinea hens just running around. I might consider that, but I have to also keep my neighbors, because even though I live out in the county, I have a lot of roosters, and sometimes I'm like, oh my gosh, like they're so loud, and I feel bad. Like one time I went to my neighbor's house. We're really good friends with our one neighbors. I went to their house, and it was like an orchestra in their backyard. I could not believe how loud it was. And it was all my chickens and my roosters and my ducks. And at the time I had a call duck that was really loud. I was like, oh my gosh, this is so loud. And they were like, yeah, they I don't know, they're so nice. They're such nice people. I don't even think they would tell me if it bothered them, but I try not to take advantage. So Tom Travis says, how are your ducks doing? Are they doing good? They are doing well. Thank you very much, Tom. Yeah, Walter is my big hen and duck hen, and she lays an egg for me every single day. Every day she lays an egg. She laid through the winter. She laid through the spring. She laid through the fall. She laid through her molt. It's like, oh my gosh. And they're big eggs. And I just love her. I'm so glad I got her because I eat one of her eggs every day. She's doing great. My other ducks are doing very well. Mr. Robot is very special needs. He's my tiny little call Drake. He requires a lot of extra care. He gets a super poopy butt because he just will not get into water. He doesn't like water. He is the duck that doesn't like water. He also can't clean his face. He was bred, his beak is so short. So call ducks, they're more, I think getting that beak like really short is actually a desirable trait in a call duck. Perhaps not quite as short as Mr. Robot's beak is, because he really can't function very well. So I just had to take care of him a lot, but he's doing good and he's cute. I want to believe asks, and I love that name. I want to believe too. I want to believe asks, have you ever cleaned and crushed your eggshells to use as grit? So I have cleaned them and crushed them up and given them back to my chickens as a calcium supplement. And I think that's a great option, especially, oyster shell is not always available. And so sometimes it's hard to find. And also sometimes people just don't want that extra expense. So crushing up your chicken's eggshells is a great way to get the extra calcium into them. One thing I would say is if you are using eggshells, make sure that you're adding some calcium-rich scraps into your chicken's diet. If you can, try and cycle in some oyster shell or some limestone into their diet every once in a while. Because if they're just eating their own eggshells, it's like a closed circuit, it's the nutrition from their own bodies that they keep kind of circulating. So I think it's good to kind of replenish that when you can. But yes, I have done that. It's a great idea. Tomasita says, I have a duck question. I have 3 ducklings, first year having them. Help. I'm sure you're going to do great, Tomasita. Ducklings can be very, very hardy. Make sure they have lots and lots of water. Change out their water a lot. They're going to be really, really messy. Make sure you stay on top of cleaning up after them, and you will do absolutely fine. Gold Jester asks, what was the most difficult part of publishing the book? So I have a whole video coming out about this. If you're listening to this in podcast form, the video has already come out. And I talk about my most challenging thing about writing this book. And it really wasn't, it was tough to write this book. I feel like I've been writing it for years because I've been teaching for over a decade. So I had a lot of just kind of the bones of the book already written. And then, putting my heart into it, putting some of my personal story into it, that was definitely a challenge. It can get emotionally taxing doing stuff like that, writing stuff like that. But I loved it, because that's what I like to do. I do love to write. So I loved that part of it, just creating that part of it. The absolute most difficult part about it is my own fear, feeling afraid that, gosh, am I good enough? Should I do this? Are they going to like it? Are people going to criticize it? Are other educators going to say it's not good? And I really struggle with imposter syndrome. And if you don't know what that is, it's where you feel like you don't belong in the arena, you're not good enough to be there. You're an imposter. So, people look at me and they say, oh, she's an expert. And I certainly call myself an educator. And I know that's what I am. And I know that I belong here, but it's hard. We all have those demons that we will try to work against. And sometimes we win and sometimes we lose. But luckily this time I won against those demons and I just kept going. And I do talk about that in my next video. So hopefully you can check that out. But really just my own mind was the hardest part. My own fears, that was the hardest part, but I was able to do it. So hold on. Oh, thank you, Diane. Diane says, I bought your book according to Amazon. It will be here the 28th. Yay. Thingsies Jill asks, should we spray our coops in the spring with Orange Guard as a preventative for fowl tick? And can I use up cat kibble as a treat for my chickens? My cat can't have it anymore. I don't think a little bit of cat kibble is gonna hurt your chickens. Some people really feel like you shouldn't do it, and then some people really feel like you should do it. I'm one of these people that's like, everything in moderation. I wouldn't have it as like this huge part of their diet because it has other things and it has it's specifically formulated for cats. with a lot of nutrition that cats need that chickens may not necessarily need. And there's also fillers in cat food and stuff that maybe wouldn't be as good for a chicken. But I don't think that there's anything wrong. Like, just keep it and give it to them every once in a while, and they'll love it. And you can get rid of the cat food that way if your cat can't have it anymore. You could, I'm, as far as the orange guard thing goes, I think that would be great as a preventative. For me, I just don't treat my chickens unless I see a problem. But I haven't dealt with fowl tick. And, my friends at, oh gosh, I can't remember their name of their channel because my brain is fried. Okay. I hope they might even be here. Oh gosh, what is the name of their channel? They're in California. I totally did a video with them and they got fowl tick. Oh my gosh. Kelly and Ricardo. I cannot remember the name of your channel. I'm sorry. Somebody tell me the name of Kelly and Ricardo's channel. It's a chicken channel. Bawk Bouquet. How could I forget that? Bawk Bouquet is the name of their channel. Awesome channel. Love them. They had fowl tick and it was absolutely horrible. Like a horrible experience. Kelly was messaging me. She's like, oh my gosh. Like she was just beside herself because when fowl tick infests, it's like a horror movie. It's so bad. So, maybe if I was further south, I would do a preventative thing just because it's so awful to deal with fowl tick. But, for me, I usually don't treat unless I see that there's a problem, then I'll treat. But it's, there's no harm. The Orange Guard is a natural product, but don't put it on your chickens. It needs to dry completely before they go back into the coop. It's not for topical use on a chicken. Susie Floozy. Michelle Root asks, are pine pellets safe if a chicken tries to eat it? Obviously you don't want your chickens eating a bunch of pine pellets because they expand. They're they absorb a lot and they expand and they could impact your chicken's digestive system. My chickens will peck at it a little bit, but they won't eat it. And if you really look at them when they're kind of going through them, they're kind of scratching through them and pecking at them. They're not eating them because they should very well know that they're not food. I mean, they don't smell like food. They certainly don't taste anything like food. If your chickens are eating them, there is a bigger problem going on. And that usually has to do with your chickens not getting fed enough or not having enough space. When chickens are enclosed, they're more likely to just eat whatever you give them. And that goes for my chickens too. My chickens are in an enclosed run. Okay. When chickens are free range, they seem to have this is not scientific, what I'm telling you, but it's just an observation. They seem to have a better sense of what to eat and what not to eat. But when chickens are in an enclosed run, they are more likely to just eat whatever you bring to them. So if you bring out like this big plate of weeds and, they'll eat all the weeds, they may eat all the weeds. They may not know necessarily that there's something in there that they're not supposed to eat. I've never had a problem with that, but I'm just letting you know that it's more likely that they might eat something that they're not supposed to if they're in an enclosed run, and the less space they have, the more of an issue that could get. I really feel like if they're eating pine pellets, they are very hungry and they're not getting enough food. And I don't say that with judgment. Like, it can happen. And I've talked about this in a video. It can happen that your chickens aren't getting enough food and you don't realize it. Okay. Especially if you're you're feeding them once a day or whatever, and they're not free feeding. So just be mindful of that. Keep an eye on them. But if they are well fed, well taken care of chickens, they're not likely to eat pine pellets. If they are, then something else. There's some other factor going on there. Okay. The Naked Gardener says we have over 100 birds. That's advanced chicken math. Krista Becker asks, can a bantam rooster fertilize eggs of a full-size hen, like an Easter egger, a Welsummer, or an Americana? He's going to try. Now, it depends on how big he is. If he's an itty-bitty Sarama, he's just going to be surfing. Like nothing, there's the contact will not happen. But Philippe, my bantam rooster, he does mate with the my standard chickens. Now, I don't have any heavy breeds. All my breeds are light and bantams. Okay. So I don't know if he, he probably could. He probably could if the thing is that the bigger hen has to be very submissive too, in order for that to happen. But absolutely, they will try. So more than likely, yes. If the legs are long enough, yes. All right. I am going to answer one more question. I'm so sorry. But, well, I'll do a few more. What the heck? Hold on. Let me get a drink. This is just water, I promise. Sabrina Shelton says, I have a hen with a small scab on the bottom of both feet. Not red, but swollen. That sounds like bumblefoot. Okay? Maybe not, because, I can't diagnose for you, but it really sounds like bumblefoot. You should go and look at some pictures of bumblefoot and see if it looks like that. Bawk Bouquet has a really good video about treating bumblefoot without doing surgery. Okay. You don't have to do surgery to treat bumblefoot in a lot of cases. A lot of people will go right to cutting that foot open. And when you do that, you are risking introducing additional infection into that foot, and also infection to you, because that's a staph infection. Okay. So try not to go right to the surgery. A lot of people will do that. Try not to do that. Try some other things first. I think I have a blog post about it, but Bawk Bouquet's video is really good. In fact, I had done my own video about it, and then I saw theirs, and I'm like, I'm not even putting mine out. Like, theirs is good. Theirs is good enough. I'll just refer everybody to them. So you can search for that on YouTube, and you'll find it. Tomasita says, I have 6 new baby chicks. They seem to be doing a lot of feather picking. So, baby chicks will peck at each other like that. Sometimes they'll peck at each other's feet. They'll peck at each other's feathers. Unless you're seeing like actual feathers being pulled out. And sometimes baby chicks will get into the habit of eating other chicks' feathers. Then I wouldn't worry about it too much. Now, if they're actually pulling each other's feathers out and eating them, or just feather picking in general, you need to think about, just make sure that they have enough space and enrichment in their area. So even baby chicks, they can get bored. And when they get bored, they can get into trouble. So make sure they have enough space. Make sure they have things to do. If you can take them outside safely for a little bit during the day, if the weather permits, and if you can do it, I would do that too, and give them that time. Stay with them outside, so if they get chilled or stressed out, you can bring them in right away. But usually feather picking is either a nutritional issue or it's a issue of boredom. Okay. And they can get into that compulsion. It can be really hard to get them out of it. So make sure that they're getting the right nutrition and that they have enough space and enrichment. CJ says, I have 8 chickens, 1 rooster. I have 8 chickens and 1 rooster. 4 of the 8 are losing their feathers next to the tail area. I don't see any mites. I don't know what to do. I'm a first-time chicken keeper. So that sounds to me like rooster damage. And what that means is the rooster is mounting the hens. He's got 4 of his favorite hens. Those are the ones he mounts. And so they're losing a little bit of feathers just from that friction. Okay. You can get hen saddles for that. You can buy them. My Favorite Chicken has some really cute hen saddles that you can purchase and put on your chickens to protect their back feathers. The other thing you can do is get some more hens. Okay. But it's not, it's not like this huge emergency. It can be uncomfortable for them, and they can actually get injured if they're bald all the time there. So you might want to consider getting them some hen saddles, and maybe consider getting a few more hens for that rooster, even though that is a good ratio, but some roosters are just, Land That I Love asks, will diatomaceous earth help with scaly leg mites? It might help, but I really feel like if it helped enough to treat it, that I would not have dealt with it so many times, because I do use diatomaceous earth in the dust baths. And my chickens have dealt with scaly leg mites so much. So I wouldn't use it as a treatment. I have used diatomaceous earth as a mite treatment. And if you're really religious with it and you use it for 3 weeks in a row, every 10 days, then you can treat an existing mite infestation with diatomaceous earth. I've absolutely done it. I know people say that you can't do it, but you absolutely can. But for scaly leg mite, I think because of their nature and they're like kind of underneath the feet, they really need to be like suffocated. And that's the easiest way to treat them. So it's possible that it could have it's very likely that it has some effect on them, but it might not be as comfortable either, because it really dries out the skin and they're already dealing with that inflammation and those raised scales. I would go just with an oil or a Vaseline or A&D type product. So Rosa asks, what's your advice for the beginner chicken keeper? I live in a small city and they only allow you to have 6 chickens. My number one, hold on. Gotta get comfy here. My number one piece of advice for people that are just starting out is to understand above everything else that human beings have been keeping chickens for a really long time. And this is a natural tradition. We have done this. It's in our DNA. It's in our bones. Okay. So I would encourage you to really spend a lot of time with your chickens. Start to build that intuition with them. Listen to your intuition. You're going to get a lot of information. Like, there's so much information about chicken keeping out there. And a lot of it is really good. Most of it is good. A lot of it might be different than what I teach, but there's many different ways of keeping chickens. Okay. But the most important thing is that you're able to, kind of listen to your gut when push comes to shove, because, everybody comes up against something where they don't know what to do. They might go onto social media, ask a question and be like, and they'll get like 20 different answers, and everybody is adamant that their way is the way it needs to be done. Okay. And a perfect example of that would be like, oh, my chicken is sick. What's going on? And everyone will be like, you need to cull your whole flock, or they're all sick. They're all going to die. It's just like, oh my gosh, like, no, like that doesn't have to be the case, So just remember to listen to your heart. Okay. That's one of the pieces of advice, like the first pieces of advice I give in my book. Listen to your heart above all things, because this is in your memory. Okay. It's in humanity's memory. And I feel like ultimately you will need to come to a place, you're always going to come up against something where you have to make a decision. And if it doesn't feel right, if somebody's telling you something that doesn't feel right, it's probably not right. Okay. Do what feels right. And sometimes we learn hard lessons, and that's okay. Okay. But you're going to be fine. People have been doing this forever. A long, long time people have been doing this. So you got this. Remember that. Okay. All right. Now I really am doing one more question. The Naked Gardener says, we're about to send 12 naked neck hatching eggs just for you, Mrs. President. So the Naked Gardeners is another channel, and they're telling me they're sending me naked neck chickens because I love naked necks. They are the best. Okay. Sorry. So Celia Perry asks, what are some supplements you recommend having free choice for hens? Congrats on the book. Super excited to get my hands on it. Thank you so much, Celia. So I have some herbs that I use mainly in the springtime to prevent parasites. I do that. I haven't always done that, but I do that now because specifically where I live, when we moved here, I did get coccidiosis in my flock that was difficult to treat, and I lost a few chickens. So in order to kind of keep those kind of things at bay, since they're in an enclosed run, I will use herbs, but those aren't free choice. So free choice, a calcium supplement and grit. And that's basically it. And their feed. You could give them, I will give them nutritional yeast, or you could do brewer's yeast, a sprinkle of that in their food every, maybe a couple times a week or something, especially if you have ducks. It's really good for your chickens and it's really good for your ducks. But other than that, a free choice supplement, you could put some apple cider vinegar in their water. You could do another type of supplement, probiotics. You get them probiotics. But if I'm going to be doing probiotics, I'd rather them get that through fermented feed. So I would do fermented feed rather than doing probiotics in the feed. But that's fine if you want to go that route. But yeah, I think, you wouldn't want to do electrolytes all the time in their water. That's not something that you want them to have free choice every single day of their life, because they could get an imbalance of their electrolytes from having that. But yeah, but you could do apple cider vinegar as long as it's not too hot. When it gets really, really hot, you don't want them on the apple cider vinegar. Then you can do electrolytes during a heat wave. But besides the oyster shell and the grit, unless there's something I'm not even thinking of right now, I will put, I take that back about the herbs, because I will put a sprinkling of herbs. I have like prepackaged herbs that I get from scratch and pick feeds, or in my book, I talk about just getting some oregano and thyme and sprinkling that into their feed. And you could do that every day if you wanted to. Like, it's not going to hurt them. Or you could do it every few days. And that would be something really good for their immunity and just their overall health. Someone is here. Sorry. Someone's dropping something off. Hold on. Okay, thank you. Go lie down. Go lie down, please. No one listens to me in this house. Okay. So I hope that answers your question. I apologize. I'm kind of like, I'm getting towards the end. I'm just like, oh gosh, my brain is mush a little bit. But I hope that helps, Celia. I know your chickens are very well taken care of, so nothing to worry about there. Okay, hold on. Come on, guys. All right. Thank you so much for joining me today. I'm so sorry. I know there's so many questions I didn't get to. I just looked at the whole list. I apologize I didn't get to everybody's question, but I'm so grateful that you were all here today. Thank you. Thank you all so much for everything. Thank you to my moderator and co-producer, Kelsey Paulus, also known as the Chickenlandia Presidential Advisor. Thank you to Talking to Crows for editing this episode, and to Double M Ranch for their wonderful podcast art. If you enjoyed this podcast, remember to rate and review it. But most of all, please remember this, no matter what, no matter if you can't get my course, if you can't get my book, no matter what, okay? Even if you can't watch my YouTube channel, I want you to know that you are always welcome in Chickenlandia. Bye. Thanks, guys.